Here's something most car owners don't realize. Your engine is not making the horsepower it's supposed to make. Not even close. If your car has more than 20,000 miles on it, you could be down 10, 15, even 20 or more horsepower from what it made the day it rolled off the assembly line. And you'd never know it, because the loss happens so gradually you just get used to it. Your car feels normal, but it's not. It's slower, thirstier, and lazier than it should be. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In Japan, they've developed a maintenance philosophy so obsessive, so detailed, that their used cars routinely outperform American and European used cars with the same mileage. We're talking about vehicles with 80,000 miles that still feel like they have 15,000. And the best part? None of it involves aftermarket parts. No cold air intakes, no exhaust upgrades, no ECU tunes. Just a systematic approach to maintenance that keeps your engine performing at or near factory peak output. Today I'm breaking down exactly what the Japanese do differently, step by step, so you can apply these methods to your own car and reclaim every last horsepower hiding under your hood. Why your engine is losing power right now. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Every internal combustion engine loses power over time, and the number one killer is carbon buildup. Every time fuel burns inside your engine, it leaves behind carbon residue. Think of it like the soot that builds up inside a fireplace. Over thousands of combustion cycles, these deposits accumulate on your intake valves, piston tops, combustion chambers, and throttle body. Now here's the data that should scare you. Independent dyno testing on direct injection engines showed that a car starting at 324 wheel horsepower at 15,000 miles dropped to 317 horsepower by 20,000 miles and down to just 305 horsepower by 25,000 miles. That's nearly a 10% loss in just 10,000 miles of driving. And the problem is significantly worse on modern direct injection engines. In a traditional port injection setup, fuel sprays directly onto the intake valves, which acts like a constant cleaning agent, washing away carbon deposits before they build up. But with direct injection, the fuel bypasses the intake valves entirely and shoots straight into the combustion chamber. So those valves just sit there, baking in oil vapor and exhaust gases with nothing to clean them off. This is the engine disease that nobody talks about, and it's robbing you of power every single day. The shaken system, and why Japanese cars stay pristine. Japan has something called the shaken system. It's a mandatory government vehicle inspection that every car must pass every 2 years, and for new cars, 3 years after initial registration. And this isn't some casual emissions sniff and a handshake like what most states in America do. The shaken is one of the most rigorous vehicle inspections on the planet. We're talking 60-plus individual checkpoints. Engine performance, exhaust emissions, brake efficiency, suspension integrity, undercarriage corrosion, wheel alignment, lighting, steering play, everything. Cars over 10 years old can emit no more than 4.5% carbon monoxide. Newer cars, no more than 1%. If your car fails any part of the shaken, it cannot legally be driven on Japanese roads until it passes. The shaken inspection alone costs anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 yen, roughly $800 to $1,600 just for the inspection, not including any repairs needed to pass. This creates a culture where Japanese owners are essentially forced to keep their vehicles in near-factory condition. They follow manufacturer service schedules religiously. They use the correct oil weight and viscosity specified by the manufacturer, not whatever's cheapest at the parts store. They replace wear items before they become problems. The result? Japanese used cars are consistently described by international buyers as being in a completely different league compared to used cars from other countries. This mentality extends directly to engine performance. Step 1. Aggressive carbon removal. The first thing Japanese mechanics prioritize is keeping the engine internals clean. And I am not talking about spraying a $12 can of fuel injector cleaner into your gas tank and hoping for the best. In Japan, hydrogen carbon cleaning has become a standard maintenance service. The process uses electrolysis to split water into hydrogen and oxygen gas, which is then fed directly into the engine's air intake while it idles. The hydrogen reacts with the baked-on carbon deposits inside the combustion chamber, on the piston tops, around the valves, and throughout the exhaust system. It essentially converts solid carbon back into a gas that burns off cleanly through the exhaust, with no harmful chemicals left behind. For vehicles with direct injection engines and heavy buildup, Japanese workshops also perform walnut blasting. This involves removing the intake manifold and blasting crushed walnut shells at high pressure onto the intake valves. The walnut shell is hard enough to chip away thick carbon deposits, but soft enough that it will not damage the metal valve surfaces. One Corvette owner documented his results on a dyno after a carbon cleaning session and regained 20 horsepower and 26 foot-pounds of torque. That is not an aftermarket modification. That is just giving the engine back the power it was designed to make. Consumer Reports has confirmed that walnut blasting is one of the most effective methods for removing carbon buildup on direct injection engines from brands like BMW, Audi, and Volkswagen. Japanese shops recommend hydrogen cleaning annually, or every 15,000 to 20,000 kilometers, and walnut blasting every 50,000 to 100,000 kilometers, depending on driving conditions. Step 2. The oil discipline. Most Americans change their oil when the maintenance light comes on, or when they remember, whichever comes last. In Japan, oil changes are treated almost ceremonially. Japanese manufacturers typically recommend oil changes every 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers, with full synthetic, depending on the engine. But here is the cultural difference. Japanese owners do not push it to the limit. They change early. They change with the exact manufacturer's specified viscosity, whether that is 0W20, 5W30, or whatever the engineer designed that engine to use. And they change the filter every time, no exceptions. Why does this matter for horsepower? Engine oil does not just lubricate. It also carries away heat, suspends contaminants, and prevents sludge formation. As oil degrades, it gets thicker with contaminants, creating more internal friction. More friction means the engine has to work harder just to spin, which robs power from the wheels. Fresh, clean, properly rated synthetic oil reduces internal friction to the absolute minimum. It is not going to give you 50 horsepower, but over time, the cumulative effect of always running clean oil versus pushing intervals means your engine retains significantly more of its factory output at 80,000 miles than one that has been neglected. Before we continue with the remaining steps, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you are learning something new here, it really helps the channel. Step 3. The warm-up and driving technique. Here is one that costs absolutely $0, but most people get completely wrong. Japanese car culture emphasizes proper engine warm-up, not the old myth of letting your car idle for 10 minutes in the driveway. Modern engines do not need that. What they do need is gentle driving for the first 5 to 10 minutes until the engine oil reaches operating temperature. When you cold start your engine and immediately floor it, the oil has not fully circulated and metal components have not expanded to their design tolerances. You are creating excessive wear and promoting carbon buildup from incomplete combustion. But here is the other side of the coin, and this one surprises people. Japanese mechanics also emphasize the importance of occasionally running the engine hard through its full RPM range once it is fully warmed up. If you only ever drive gently, puttering around town in the lower RPM band, carbon accumulates faster because the engine never gets hot enough to burn off deposits naturally. In the West, this practice has been called the Italian tune-up, but Japanese mechanics have been recommending it as standard maintenance advice for decades. Once a week, on a safe stretch of road, take the engine through its full RPM range in each gear. Get the exhaust gas temperatures up. Let the engine breathe at higher RPM, where airflow naturally scours some of those deposits away. It is free. It is fun, and it genuinely works. Step 4. Air filtration and fuel quality. This is the one that Japanese owners never skip, and most Western owners completely forget about. Your engine is an AR pump. The more efficiently it can breathe, the more power it makes. A dirty, clogged air filter is like trying to run a sprint while breathing through a coffee straw. It is not going to kill you, but you are definitely not performing at your best. Dyno tests have shown that replacing a dirty air filter can immediately recover around 5 horsepower. That is not a modification. That is just removing a restriction you created by neglecting basic maintenance. Japanese owners inspect and replace air filters on strict schedules, typically every 15,000 to 20,000 kilometers, sooner in dusty conditions. They do not necessarily go for aftermarket performance filters either. Most stick with OEM replacements because the factory filter is designed for the specific airflow requirements of that engine. The Japanese approach is not about adding performance parts. It is about never letting the factory parts degrade to the point where they cost you power. Fuel quality matters just as much. Japan uses top-tier fuel standards, and Japanese owners overwhelmingly use the recommended octane for their vehicle. Running lower octane fuel than what your engine was designed for forces the ECU to retard ignition timing to prevent engine knock. Retarded timing equals less power. Running the correct octane is not an upgrade. It is just letting your engine make the power it was designed to make. Step 5. Spark plugs and ignition maintenance. Spark plugs are another area where the Japanese approach differs dramatically from the average Western car owner. Most people run their spark plugs until the engine starts misfiring. Japanese maintenance schedules call for replacement at manufacturer-specified intervals, typically every 30,000 to 60,000 miles for iridium plugs, and they do not stretch it. A worn spark plug does not combust the air-fuel mixture as efficiently, which means incomplete combustion, less power per cycle, more carbon buildup, and worse fuel economy. It is a vicious cycle. One worn plug leads to more carbon, which leads to even worse combustion. Multiply that across thousands of combustion events per minute, and you are leaving serious power on the table. Japanese mechanics also inspect the ignition coils during plug replacement. A weak coil produces a weak spark, which leads to the same incomplete combustion and power loss. It is all connected, and the Japanese approach treats it as an integrated system. Step 6. The fuel system deep clean. The final piece of the Japanese maintenance puzzle is periodic fuel system cleaning. This goes beyond dumping a bottle of injector cleaner in the tank. Japanese workshops use professional-grade fuel system cleaning that addresses the injectors, the fuel rails, and the throttle body. Dirty fuel injectors do not atomize fuel properly. Instead of a fine mist that combusts efficiently, you get uneven spray patterns that create hot spots, incomplete combustion, and yes, more carbon buildup. One independent test showed that a professional fuel system cleaning on a truck with over 100,000 miles improved horsepower by 14% in a single treatment. That is a massive gain from just cleaning what was already there. The Japanese combine this with regular throttle body cleaning to ensure the butterfly valve operates smoothly and does not restrict airflow. A sticky throttle body coated in carbon deposits can cause rough idle, hesitation, and measurable power loss. The big picture, Kaizen for your engine. The Japanese have a word for this philosophy, Kaizen. It means continuous improvement through small, incremental changes. No single one of these steps is going to transform your car, but stack them all together. Carbon cleaning, disciplined oil changes, proper warm-up habits, high RPM driving sessions, air filter maintenance, correct fuel grade, fresh spark plugs, and fuel system cleaning, and you can reclaim 15 to 25 or more horsepower that your engine has silently lost over years of neglect. That is the equivalent of a cold air intake and an exhaust system, except you did not add a single aftermarket part. You just gave the engine back what it was born with. The Japanese do not chase horsepower with bolt-on parts. They prevent horsepower loss through obsessive maintenance. And the data proves it works. Their used cars last longer, perform better, and retain more value than comparable models from anywhere else in the world. The real question is not whether this works. It is why more people are not doing it. That is all for today. If you found this valuable, smash that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Drop a comment and let me know, when was the last time you actually did a carbon cleaning on your engine? I will bet for most of you the answer is never. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.